Welcome, Illumineers. It is time to take a rest from your quest and check on in the Lore Keeper's Inn. I'm your host, Katie. Well, actually, let me try that again. What an honor it is to say these words to you tonight. Welcome to the Eras Tour. That was my best Taylor Swift impression. But it's here. We're in the Eras Tour. It's summer, and I have the hottest ticket in town. It is a tour through the eras that we all know and love, the Disney animation eras. So, as some of the followers of the show might have picked up on, I'm a huge fan of Disney history and sharing facts about Disney animation. So, I wanted to create this series to kind of look at Lorcana through the lens of the lore of each animation era. So, we'll discuss what cards we've seen from that time period and then sit down as Armchair Illumineers and kind of talk about what cards we hope to see introduced into the Great Illuminary. So, we're kicking off this tour at a place where it all started, the Golden Age. And with me is someone who is herself a golden light in the Lorcana community. From her humorous short, her candid perspectives on her own journey as a player, and her technical prowess as a caster for a Disney Lorcana challenge event, she really is a treasure in our community. She is the lovely and talented Rebekah.
Thank you. That's such a lovely introduction. Thank you so much.
That's my favorite part. Like whenever I introduce somebody, I'm like, I'm just going to gas them up. It's my show. I can do that.
Do it. Yes. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here for the kickoff of the Eras Tour. I'm not a Swiftie. I don't even know how to say it right.
Well, you got it. And this one is more important because it's way more exclusive. You're the only person that's been invited so far.
Yes, exactly. So I brought my silver mini ears to celebrate the kickoff of the Eras Tour.
They're so shiny. I'm like, I should have brought ears. I do. I'm looking behind me. I was like, I do have ears right there. I always have an emergency ear on standby.
Emergency pair of ears. I love it.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
So like I said, this is going to be starting with the Golden Era. So it's started in 1937 and includes 5 films, 3 of which are already in the world of Disney Lorcana, but 2 of that are not. So the 5 films are Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. So are any movies in this era that you're like, I love that one?
I'm a little sucker for Fantasia. I do love a Mickey Sorcerer. I love some of the other. I was a ballet dancer when I was younger. And so there's the whole Nutcracker suite that they turned into, they Disney-fied it. So I actually really love Fantasia out of those. And then Snow White, of course, is just classic. So how can you not love Snow White?
Yeah, and it's interesting. And I think I even kind of get to this later. But something that always blew my mind, because as a kid, Disney movies, there were new Disney movies, and then there are just movies that your parents would put on that came out at a time, who knows? And we didn't have the internet. We couldn't Google. So did you ever have a moment where you're like, holy cow, these movies are really old? Or because I had a moment where one day I was like, wait, this is as old as World War II?
Wait, this is so old. Yeah, I remember having some of them, having all these on VHS. So already they were old, because they were they weren't on the Disney Channel or not in the movie theater. So, and I don't know that I had a moment, but honestly, I just kind of always forget how old they are. And then somebody's like, remember when that, Snow White came out in year blah, and I'm like, what did? Oh, that's right, it did. And I think especially because of the color factor,
Yeah, I think that tricked me.
That tricked me because you're like, oh, Snow White was in color, but that was, not the case for all the other feature films that were being made at that time. And so that's a little tricky there.
I know. So, I just assumed, there are movies that came out in the 90s, and then every other movie came out in 1975, in my mind. That's just, that seems right.
Right, yes.
So, now the era starts in 1937, but Walt and Roy, you could really do a whole episode on, all of the things we're about to talk about today. So much like Miss Swift's Eras Tour, we're touching briefly. We're landing delicately along the stones of history. But Walt and Roy actually moved to Hollywood in 1923, which, a fun fact, just to kick off, D23 is to celebrate the year that they founded their company. But they didn't start making movies right away. They were doing shorts. Sometimes people hear silly symphonies. Anytime you see a Disney short and you don't see Mickey, it's probably something they did before.
Really early on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were very simple, but very, still groundbreaking at the time. Um, and on my previous show, me and Caleb, we talked about Snow White, and that was back in the day. There had only been like one animated movie, and it was really like a puppet show movie. It wasn't like hand drawn. So people, when Walt was like, I want to make a movie, an animated movie, people are like, it's going to kill people. It's going to hurt their eyes. Yeah. Nobody can watch something that colorful for that long. It's physically not possible. Like they were writing
can't. You can't.
Yeah, they're like the body can't handle it, which I like that. I like that somebody's like, listen, it can't be good for you. But it was okay. It was okay. People survived.
Okay. They did not go blind from all the color.
Yes. Yeah, you can even find like articles that are like, it's Disney's folly, which they were really dogging on him for his ambition, which is kind of a reoccurring theme in the Disney story, is him going, I have an idea, and people going, you can't, it'll never work. And then he made it work.
Success.
So he starts with Snow White, which it was definitely a first of its kind. I mean, like I said, we did a whole episode. You can go back and listen to it, but it basically, they invented so much to do that movie. One thing that, if you ever get a chance, and I think it's still there, at Hollywood Studios, they have Walt One Man's Dream, and it's like a mini museum. And one of the things that's super shocking, not shocking, is a camera. Yeah, you'll never believe it, but they have the multiplane camera, which is something that they invented to make animation look cool.
Yeah. So innovative. I mean, which has been like the story of Disney all along, just always innovating from the beginning.
And that's really the hallmark of the golden era. The golden age is what they call it, but I'm really shoving that era theming into this. But he basically, this is the foundation. I mean, it really is, because he has said, I have an idea, I'm going to do it. Now, it did cost $1.5 million in then dollars, which is a lot more in today dollars.
Wow. Yeah.
But it ended up being super successful. It ended up earning more than $8 million during its initial release compared to its 1.5 budget, and it was the highest grossing animated film for 55 years.
Really?
Yeah. And I could look up what this one is. I mean, I guess it's whatever, 1937 plus 55.
Plus 55. I can't do math in my head. Wait, what year is that?
Listen, I'm a creative person. I'm not here to impress people with math.
Wow, 1992. I think that was like Little Mermaid.
Or I guess maybe Lion King? I don't know.
No, Little Mermaid was, oh yeah. Well, Little Mermaid, it might have been 91. That's a good question.
I know. Now it's like, okay, well, I can't know all the lore.
All the things. That's really impressive, though, to have hold that record for highest grossing animated film for that long. That's a new factoid I did not know. Also, that's a big budget for 1937.
Yeah, and that's like a reoccurring theme is Walt saying, I got an idea. People go, okay, Walt, and then just like freaking out. So his brother Roy was like the businessman, and Roy, I can't remember what podcast it was, but they're like, Walt had his dream goggles and Roy had his like calculator. So Roy was stressed this whole time because he was constantly like going and being like, I got this idea, go with me here. But this one worked. It worked really well. We're still talking about it. And Snow White's one of those movies where I could not tell you the first time I saw it. It just seems ubiquitous. It's weird. Some of those movies that like you look back and you're like, remember the first time you saw it? I don't remember. This just seems like a movie that existed forever.
It just has always been.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't think any of the movies in that era I recall watching for like the first time. They just were.
Exactly.
A part of my childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what happened, though, is it was a smash hit. And I think, like, as any person that follows art or music or anything, it's after that first big one, then it's like, okay, what's next? So they had a few ideas, but they ended up going with Pinocchio. And it ended up being the next step up. So basically, Walt, he saw that he could do technological advances and he wanted to do more. So he did realistic movements to vehicles and machinery and rain and water and lightning and smoke and shadows. And so he was pushing all the limits you can technologically. And all these words I'm saying are money. It was expensive. But the good news is they did win their first like official competitive Academy Award. Before they had won like honorary and things that are like good job Academy Awards, but they actually won for best score and for best song, which at first I was like best song, but When You Wish Upon a Star.
You wish upon a star. Yes.
I mean, I think that song, like, catch me on any day and you play that song at the right time, I'll cry. I'll do it. It's just such a magical song.
It is magical.
So yeah, like if you like even like the football, I'm not a huge football fan, but when they do that, like where are you going? And they're playing that song in the background. In this world, I'm like, oh man, good for you, Tom Brady. You deserve this. Like, who knew that Tom Brady would have me crying? But it's the song, not him. But the problem is that it ended up being below studio expectations. So essentially they're like, it's going to be another Snow White. And it wasn't, unfortunately. In fact, there was a quote I found that said, Walt was, in quotes, very, very depressed, which is, you don't want to hear that.
Interesting.
He was depressed about the box office returns. And it was initially a financial loss. But it's important to note some things are going on in the world. It's 1940. Things aren't great elsewhere. So America's not in World War II quite yet. But there is a world war going on, which makes distributing a film internationally harder. Not a lot of appetite for going out to see the movie in different places. So Europe's having a time where they're not really into the movie business right now.
For sure.
But understandable. So that hurt the earning potential. I'm sure the mood, when there's like a world war going on, you're probably like, not really.
Don't really want to go watch a cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah. So it failed to capture that lightning in a bottle that Snow White did. But it's obviously a film that's still highly regarded because, I mean, I think if you bring it up, everybody has heard of this movie, at least in the States. I can't speak for the world. And that's due to something that I didn't realize, but makes sense now that I think about it, is at this time, Disney did something where they reissued movies every 7 to 10 years, or essentially every 7 to 10 years ago, back in theaters, and they would release Snow White again. They would release
in
Pinocchio.
The theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which kind of makes sense because, I mean, home video wasn't a thing until,
it's not a thing.
No, until the 80s, 70s. But it was really expensive when it happened, too. So
yeah.
So this was the only way you could see the movie is if they reissued it. And then that also helped them recoup back the funds. So ultimately, because they kept re-releasing it, it became a financial success.
I think it's really interesting, though, that it was more of a success there with like the Academy Awards, like you were saying, but then not as financially successful. So
yeah. And I find that's something that's kind of a hallmark in this era, and it's going to be super present in the next one we talk about, where Walt's being very ambitious. He's doing things that I don't think the scene in like Back to the Future was like, you're not ready for it, but your kids are gonna love it.
Right.
It's like that. So I think like he was doing things that people are like, So I think a lot of this, obviously, you had to, ruminate on it for a bit. And I think that's why they're classics, is because they do age well. They're movies that were you can watch now and you don't think like, wow, this seems like this was done in the 1930s.
Right. They stand the test of time.
They do. But I will say that when I think about Pinocchio, it is a film for hardened children. It is a film I imagine a child who has like a factory job would watch because it is tough. It is
dark. It's weird. It's like when you think about it, Katie, it's like a movie about child trafficking. Like
and then haunting because of the kids. They're like, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. And then they're
turning into donkey. It's weird. It's a strange
and then you get eaten by a whale. Like, they're already having a rough go of it. And I'm like, okay, this is rough. And then they're like, and then I got eaten. So there's that.
There's that.
So it's a lot of peril for a movie. And it's visually dark.
I remember really not liking it. Like,
yeah.
I remember like watching it and just being like, I did not enjoy the movie. It's like I enjoyed like the first, however long, like, Jiminy Cricket, Blue Fairy, the puppet comes to life, we sing a happy song, and that's all. I didn't like the rest of it.
And it's fair because it's cute, but then it's like, and then something very sinister happens. So I liked in Tokyo Disney, I took my brother-in-law on back-to-back or I took him on the Snow White ride, which is already a little like, ugh, because they haven't played the cute ending that Disneyland got. It's still just like sinister the whole way through.
Excellent.
And then I took him on Pinocchio, and he's like, "What are these rides? What are we doing here?" And I'm like, "This is entertainment, baby." But if anyone who hasn't rode the Pinocchio ride, it's a lot. It's a lot to process.
And what's funny is, like, I've gone on that ride at Disneyland so many times. I always think it's weird and dark, and I'm like, this is just strange. But then now taking my kids on it, like as children, I'm like, what are we doing?
I don't know. It's a weird. I mean, then
What are we
finish it with
doing?
Mr. Toads just to have just
Mr.
fill them
Toads.
with questions.
Yes. Let's just take a ride through hell, kids.
Yeah, it ends in hell, and that's it. There's no
And then that's the
after.
end.
It's the end. Get off. So I think that sticks out to me about that film is that, you know, it's not one I watch when I want to feel warm and fuzzy. It's definitely important. And the thing is I like the characters. Like later when we talk about cards we want to see, there's characters I want, but I don't want to hang out with the film too much if I can skip it.
Same.
But 1940 was 2 films. So we got Pinocchio, but we also had a film that you mentioned. It's the year of Fantasia.
Yeah.
Now doing research, it kind of reminded me a little bit. Have you in Disneyland or in California Adventure ever gone to Disney's PhilharMagic?
Yes. And I love it. It's so cute.
And PhilharMagic, I feel like, captures the essence in a very lighter way.
Much
Maybe
lighter.
with a heavier tone, but kind of like the focus on music with animation together and what could it be to be surrounded. And that was the goal of Fantasia. So Walt really wanted to make a movie that was like nothing you've ever seen before. And it still kind of is on like any movie that I've seen other than Fantasia 2000, which is also good. But
yeah.
But he, you know,
unique.
he started. It is, and it's very artsy. Like I think even as a kid, I'm like, well, this feels refined. Like it's a very refined movie for distinguished children. But he cut his teeth with Silly Symphony, so it kind of was going back to that. And so like he's starting to make friends with like arts people. Like he even briefly worked with Salvador Dali. And so on this one, he worked with a famous conductor that I forgot to write down his name. I'll put it in the video like right here, but he's famous. And so he got him to agree to do a music featured film. Now this was, I think I could probably do like several episodes just on this movie because I mean, it's all of it. It's taking like actual art and music, and making it into its new art. And you said your favorite was The Rite of Spring, or no, Nutcracker.
No, the Nutcracker Suite. Yeah. The Rite of Spring is also fun, but yeah, the Nutcracker. Like I said, I grew up doing ballet, and so we did Nutcracker every year, so I was very familiar with the music.
Yeah.
And then to see it done in this very new way, or not new to me as a child watching it. And it is very artsy. It's very artsy-fartsy, creative. And I just loved it. Like, just so imaginative. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's done beautifully. Or even as a kid, because I mean, you know, normally as a kid you sit down and you're like, all right, let's watch a movie. You know, I think someone put this movie on and I'm like, well, this isn't really such much of a movie, but it still captures your attention because you're just like, this is really stimulating.
It is. Yes. Like you got the sounds, you've got all the things, and it's like all the little like accents of the music, you know, with the little pops and whatever and the characters. And yeah, they just did a really, really beautiful job. My kids have never seen Fantasia. I feel
it makes sense because it's a weird movie to be like, what night is a Fantasia night? We're like, hey kids, we're going to watch a movie that's not really a movie, but it's an hour and a half.
Yes.
So it's an interesting one. I think it's definitely one that should be enjoyed in theaters. And that was Walt's goal, was to replicate the orchestra experience in a theater. So another time where Walt's like, I got this idea. It's only going to cost a lot of money. Don't worry about it.
Only.
So he recorded the orchestra using multi-audio channels and created a whole system called Fantasound. And so this Fantasound had to be moved around theater to theater because it was basically like a sound system that didn't really exist in most theaters that day, where it was basically capturing the instruments like you would hear it into the theater. So it was a precursor to surround sound, and it was the first commercial film shown in stereo. So he was like, I got to do it this is really important. This is really expensive. So it was a success critically. So a lot of critics were like, the sheer scale of the artistry was really overwhelming, but it didn't really make a profit because it was kind of like a traveling show.
Yeah.
To show it the way it's intended to be, you'd have to like bring the Fanta sound to the theater and set it up and lease it. And also there's still a war. So it's kind of like it's a weird time for extravagant theater shows. So it was hard to make it a commercial success, and it really wasn't. Unfortunately,
that totally makes sense. Wow, that's like you're saying, having to have basically a whole new sound system to take from theater to theater, because like you said, all the theaters weren't like set up for Fanta sound.
Yeah, and that's what made me think of PhilharMagic, is because like PhilharMagic is like, you're here, it's in the symphony, and so like he was trying to do things that no one was doing and show entertainment in a way that had never been presented.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've made 3 pretty expensive films, 2 of which didn't do super good. So there was this elephant in the room that like, we gotta make money. We gotta, we're a business and business needs profits. So in order to appeal to a wider elephant, nope. I was really working hard on setting it up with the elephant in the room. You knew where I was going.
I knew where you were
going. The elephant in the room was Dumbo. So this movie was designed to be the most simple, pure story you could have, where they were like simple in every way. They were like, cut down on the animations. We don't need anything fancy. We just need a story. It's 64 minutes, so it's one of the studio's shortest animated features. And the supervising director was literally told, make it simple and inexpensive, and don't do anything fancy, please. Which kind of checks out, because I mean, it really isn't a super complicated movie.
It's not.
I did find a quote that I quite liked, where RKO Radio Pictures, they were like the distributor for their films in the early day. They said, that's really short, Walt. You need to make it longer. And he said, nope, that's as far as I can stretch it. You can stretch a thing so far and then it won't hold. The picture is right as it is. Add another 10 minutes and it is liable to cost $500,000. I can't afford it. So Walt is done. He's
like, this is it. This is what you get. You get 64 minutes.
Which, honestly, I mean, the movie probably doesn't need 10 more minutes. It's a pretty straightforward story.
Yeah.
And it was released in October 23rd, and it was a financial miracle compared to the other films. It only costs I don't know. This is olden days money, so this is more money now. $950,000 to produce, which was half the cost of Snow White, less than a third of the cost of Pinocchio, and like way, way, way less than Fantasia. And it grossed $1.3 million during the original release and ended up netting a profit of $850,000. So we're in the black, which is really all they wanted.
Yeah.
But it's a weird movie for me because it's very cute. But I remember feeling like this made me sad. Any movie where like you're like, it's the circus, but Dumbo's mom is in a cage and everyone laughs at this little baby. It was a lot to watch. I just remember feeling sad watching it and being like, I don't think I should feel sad. This elephant's so cute. Did you ever have mixed emotions about Dumbo, the flying elephant?
Yeah, it did make me sad. I remember having feelings of always thinking it was more sad than happy,
Yeah.
and like that it was it was a sad story that they tried to inject some whimsy into. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It wasn't like a whimsical story with some sad parts. It was like the other way around.
Yeah. It's hard because, I mean, when you're a kid, circuses are generally
like
a happy thing.
Happy.
People aren't like,
Yeah.
now I think maybe kids are now more like aware, like circuses aren't fair to the elephants. I don't know what kids these days know about the circus. But in my olden age, it was a whimsical thing. So I just remember being very like, oh, I don't know, this is kind of, I really feel bad for this little baby elephant.
You know what it reminds me of, this, which is not Disney related, but the Last Unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And at the start, there's like the unicorn that's in the cage. It's just like that kind of same feeling where you're just like, this sad poor creature,
I know. And you don't want to, I mean, his name is literally Dumbo because they're like, you're dumb.
Because you're
like,
dumb.
We're bullying a baby elephant? Like, that's just like so not even in my headspace
Right.
of bullying a cute
We're
baby
just
animal.
laughing. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I cannot relate to the other characters in that movie.
And then
so
the
I'm like,
baby minds, like, oh, come
That's
on.
which is a
Yeah.
wonderful song.
It
So,
is.
I mean, but
It is.
oof. so
Heavy.
So the last film in the era, we're not getting happier.
No.
It was actually meant to be the second film. So like basically after Snow White, they're like, we have to do another movie, and Bambi was on the menu. That's a terrible choice of words, but Bambi was on the
docket.
agenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
No, that's Bambi's mom who, unfortunately. But either way, it was something they wanted to do, but it was another situation where they're like, this is going to be hard because Walt obviously is very obsessed with doing things right, and he doesn't want to like do anything like you can watch if you go back and watch Snow White, like when you watch Snow, you can tell that they studied human movement. Like she moves very naturally. Like it's really impressive watching it with modern eyes, knowing that, they were the first to do it and they did it so
well.
Yeah. So with Bambi, they're like, well, we got to do animals, and we're not just doing deer. We're doing like a whole menagerie of the forest creatures. And then the second thing is it was based on a semi-modern book, I believe, where the book was kind of, how like there's lots of depressing wildlife books that somehow came up during your education, like White Fang and like, I don't know. There was just a few very like where the red fern grows. Yes, yeah, where it's just like it's in nature and you're like, oh, this is
gonna be
heavy. Yeah. So it was one of those books, and so they're like, okay, we have to take this adult novel about the realities of the forest and make it a whimsical children's movie using technology that we don't have yet. So it kind of was on the back burner until they kind of started in 1937, but then it didn't get released until 1942. So we got quite a long runway until that movie actually took off. And you might be like, well, there were deer in Snow White. They're like, those deer were bags of flour. They were talking trash on the beer in Bambi, which I did not remember anything negative about those deers, but they had strong feelings.
How funny.
So one thing that's kind of interesting is at this point, they would go to Los Angeles Zoo, and then Disney even brought animals into the studio, and he brought in rabbits and ducks and owls and skunks and a pair of fawns named Bambi and Faline so that the artist could see the movement, which if anybody's like a Disney featurette fan, they did this for another film, Lion King. So this is like so much of the foundation they're laying here. They're starting traditions that are like Disney
Still
forever.
today. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically he was very like, look at these animals, figure it out. We're going to make a very realistic movie. But then that kind of backfired in some ways because people went to go see it and they're like, it's pretty serious. Like it's not a fairy tale. There's no magical elements in Bambi other than talking animals, which I guess is pretty magical. But other than that, they're dealing with the hard realities of the forest. Ultimately, it was another kind of disappointment. It didn't really draw a lot of audiences. But at this point, the U.S. is in the war. So, it kind of makes sense. And the reviews were just kind of all over the map because some people were like, I'm going to watch a magical movie. And then they got in. They're like, well, that was about a deer who lost his mom. That's rough. Because I don't even remember how that movie ends. I think he goes off with his dad at the end, perhaps. Because I remember there's a male deer at some point that's like, Bambi, come on. But I don't know who.
Well, and there's like the girl deer, right? That he like.
There is.
Faline, who, I don't remember how it ends either. How funny.
Well, probably because it's not a movie that I don't think it's another one where it's like, what night are you like,
right.
You know what? Let's watch Bambi.
Let's go back and watch Bambi.
Yeah. You remember how you cried a little bit and you had to think about your mom dying? Well, there's a movie that you can watch. And so I personally have not sought it out again. Is this a movie that you have watched several times with your family on movie night?
Definitely not. No, this is my kids have not seen this one. I think this one and Fantasia. They've seen the other three in this era, but they've not seen Bambi. Which is, like you said, it's like, what night do you go, let's watch a family movie that's going to make you sad?
Because you think like, when you think about, Saturday night in the 90s and early 2000s, you'd pop in a Cinderella, you'd pop in a Little Mermaid. But this one is one where I think we even had on a VHS and I'm like, that can stay there. I'm not too interested in such a film. But that basically is the end of what we would consider we Disney historians that I just added you and me into. that's the end of the golden era. Now, then they move into the wartime era, which is not really a movie era. The wartime era is kind of like a holding pattern where basically Disney as a studio, they're like, hey, can you help us make some, movies to get people jazzed about bad times?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the wartime era is. And then after that, we pick up the next part of the era is the silver era. But like I said, I think this era is very fascinating because it's really the Disney DNA is being formulated. And
Yeah.
it echoes through, I don't know, on purpose or on accident, or if they did it so well where they just were like, okay, well, I guess that's how we're going to do it. But this is when, like, the 12, I think 12 Angry Men is a movie about jurors.
Yeah.
Not 13, 9 old men.
12.
I need to figure out
12 Angry Men. Yeah.
Well, that's the play, but they're the men that were Walt's assistants.
Oh, Walt's people.
9 old men, I think they are, possibly. And now I'm Googling it because, yes, Disney's 9 old men.
Disney's
are
9 old men.
Yeah, so he had this team where basically these were his go-to guys that are going to be touching almost every animated project for the next few decades.
Yeah.
And so this is where that starts. This is where the fundamentals of animation, so things about like how things move, cartoonish movement that, we see all the time now started here where things are very springy and heavy. All that kind of personification is starting at this time. And that technology, music, bold storytelling, they're really galvanizing Disney as a company at this time. So even though we might look at this and say, those are some big risks, obviously it paid off.
Yes.
Because we are talking about it.
Yeah, like you said, we are still talking about it. They've stood the test of time, even though they aren't the happiest movies.
Yeah.
But they were innovative, not just in the movies, like the films themselves, but in the whole process. Like you're talking about the Fantasound and the, all the things, There was a lot of Disney magic in those 5 films for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's important because oftentimes, and this is something that comes up in Lorcana too, people say Disney's for kids, which is fantastic. Fantastic point. Kids do like Disney. But when you look at Disney DNA and you look at the foundation, these films were created in mind to be art that children can enjoy with their parents. And that's in Disneyland too. Like that was the whole point of Disneyland. So I think it's always like, really important to like look back and be like, yes, kids can enjoy it and they do enjoy it. But that was never his intention, was to create children's entertainment.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, watch Fantasia. Watch Fantasia. You will see that is not for children. No one made this movie for a child. They made it so children can watch it. But he wanted to make sophisticated entertainment that can be enjoyed by all.
You know what's interesting about Fantasia, if I can say too, is like just the idea of let's take the orchestra experience into the movie theater. And I think you see that with the Disney, even things like Disneyland, of let's give people an experience that they might not otherwise have,
Yes.
Not everyone will be able to go see a live orchestra, so let's bring the orchestra to them.
Yeah. And that's such a cool thing because, I mean, I think I kind of mentioned, I was talking to Citizens of Lorcana, and I mentioned that that's why I love Lorcana, is because you get to have a little Disney story in your kitchen. And, every night is a little bit different and it's your own little experience. And, most people are not near a Disney park or any Disney property, but you have a little piece of it that you build and then you travel around the country to enjoy with other people.
Absolutely.
And that's really cool.
It is
Which brings us to Disney Lorcana. So, I wanted to kind of talk about, how is these ages represented in the game so far. So it's partially represented. It's partially represented in the game so far. So as of Ursula's return, we have the following count, which could be off by a card or two. But Snow White in the Seven Dwarfs is the leaderboard. It's got 23 cards, which I believe like Beauty and the Beast has, a pretty high, like Beauty and the Beast, I think has the most
50 something.
52 cards. So that's if anyone's like keeping score at home. That's like the gold standard of like, wow, you got a lot of cards. Pinocchio has 6. And then Fantasia has 18, but half of them are brooms. So if we eliminate the brooms, only 9, but 18 if each broom gets to be considered its own card. Dumbo, none. Bambi, also none.
Mm-hmm.
So as we, think about what does exist today, are there any that stick out to you that you're like, I love that? That you really think that they got it right, as far that you're happy that they're in the game so far?
I mean, I think they did right by Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, honestly. They really did. The Seven Dwarfs art that goes across, the panorama art, so good, so wonderful. It was just like perfect the way they did it. And then also like the fun synergy, with the dwarves and everything and stuff. I think it was fun as well. And I think the Snow White cards that they did were beautiful. They were gorgeous. The different artists, there was, I think, 2 or 3 different artists that have done a Snow White card. And yeah, she's gorgeous. So I think they really did right by Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from the art perspective, for sure. Pinocchio might be my favorite, though. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the Pinocchios are cute. They're kind of, they did some very cute ones, which I like, because as we talked about, the movies, I wouldn't call that a cute movie.
No.
But they took the parts that are like cute and put that in the game. And I'm like, thank you.
Thank you.
If you made me look at Monster the Whale, I would feel upset because I don't like thinking about him. I don't.
Oh, but they should put him in the game.
You should, actually. That'd be pretty cool, actually. Like, you put him on the board and he gets to consume other creatures as long as he's on the board.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, well, until you get rid of him, you can't use any of your other creatures. They're in him. So, either way, yeah, I think Snow White, the art on it, I love when the art captures the magic of the film. Like, the artists obviously aren't the ones that did the original film, unless they're very old, but I don't think so. They're people who are capturing the magic of the original film, and I think they did a really great job. I mean, all of them are great, but with, Snow White, you look at them and you're like, ooh, you feel that warm little cottage feeling you feel in the happier scenes of Snow White.
Absolutely.
Another one I noted was Chernabog is a card that grew on me, because I am famous amongst myself that I don't like villains. I'm not a villain card person, not a villain fan. You're not going to see me wearing villain shirts. I'm just not into it. It's just not my vibe. So Chernabog was one where I saw the card and I was like, not impressed. But have you ever seen The Enchanted in person?
I have not seen it in person, no.
So he's got these holographic eyes that like glint, and it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I ended up trading for one because I got a Grammatala, and someone's like, I'll trade you my Chernabog. And I was like, well, I'll trade for the Chernabog. Then later, I was doing lots of like Enchanted Bath, and then I got it, and I was like, I'm keeping it. It was just really cool. So the artist on that, I don't know if they knew the eyes would be holographic, but it's just really cool.
I love how, so it's like you have the art and everything, but then there is that foil treatment that they do for the foil cards, and then the Enchanted and everything. And it's like, and it's a whole team. Like, it's like, it's amazing how they do the foil treatment on the cards. It looks so cool. So
I'm excited for the future of Lorcana. I famously again, I don't know who I think these famously am a big fan of holographic things. Like, when I saw your ears, I'm like, that is holographic.
Yes.
I know. And sometimes people are like, oh no, there's a holographic card in every pack. Oh no, that is cold foil.
Cold foil.
Yeah, which reflects just light, versus holographic reflects the spectrum. So something about the holographic on like the Enchanteds, I'm just like,
yeah. Have you seen the Snow White one? So we have the Snow White Enchanted. And pretty. She's so pretty. She's so pretty.
I know. Yeah, like, I don't want to be somebody that's like, I need a card that doesn't, it's a piece of paper. I will say that. But once you see it, you're like, that is a card worth a lot of money. I see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they did a good job with the brooms, I'll say. They really nailed that one. Every time another broom comes out, I'm like, wow, they really... Because the first set, I remember being like, wow, wouldn't that be funny if you had like a broom deck? And they're like, you sweet summer child. And then all the brooms. And so I'm assuming
we need more brooms. Yeah. I'm assuming more brooms. Will we get a broom every set? I don't know. Do I hope? Kind of.
Sky's the limit. Yeah, right? I mean, if out of 18, 9 of them are brooms, I'm imagining the closet shall be overflowing with them.
Yes.
So I know we mentioned that, sometimes movies have like 52. I think the other leader is Little Mermaid. I think she's the other one that's like, I think that's the other leader board for people keeping score at home. But are there any cards that you're like, this got your imagination going? I call it Armchair Illuminary because I really like saying that. But, things that you're just like, you're waiting. You're hoping it's coming out. But if it's not, you're like, I'm willing to pitch it here today.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many things. Where should we start? Well,
I mean, anywhere. Or you can start chronologically.
Yeah, let's start chronologically. That's a good way to do it. Okay, so for Snow White, what I would love to see for Snow White is a new take on Snow White, like we have seen with like Cinderella Night, and like some of the other princess characters, that seeing them in like these like new and exciting and fun ways. All the Snow White cards are great, but she's still Snow White.
Yeah.
And I would love to see like a like crazy Floodborn Snow White something, that would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you. Floodborn is my favorite part of Lorcana because I just love that they take something we love and then you get to have basically fan art of it where you take it and you're like, I'm going to make something new. My thing that I am waiting on. So like the dwarfs and like I watched it for the first time in a long time, like a couple months ago. And the dwarfs kind of like go to battle against the queen at one point. They like chase her up a mountain. They're like, we're going to get you. And it made me want battle dwarfs. I want a Gimli style dwarfs. I want axes and armor. And like these are, basically, I just want Gimli in the Seven Dwarfs. That's all I want. So they could basically,
that's all.
Have the same synergy and then, make them a different color. Steel, and now we get all 7, but now they are battle hardened and ready. And then that leads perfectly into your snow because she could be the warrioress. She's leading them.
Exactly. And we don't need the prince. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's barely in the movie. He shows up and he's... I do like at the end, she's like, bye-bye. And then they ride off. I'm like, what a way to end the movie. She's just like, anyway, see you later, guys. And they're like, bye.
Battle dwarves and warrior snow. I love it. Yes.
I know. Yeah, and that's something where I know that, like, we've seen it because, I mean, obviously, we have Battle Anna, Battle Ariel. More. Yeah, I'm not done. I want
exactly.
That's exactly the energy I want, and I don't mind a repeat. Please do it. And then, we move into Pinocchio. There was a couple I had for this. Cleo and Figaro. I just want them.
Figaro. Yeah.
And he's also Minnie's cat, which is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
That, like...
I don't, like, canonically understand that.
No. I mean...
But...
It's that's show business, baby.
Right.
I guess sometimes you are Geppetto's cat and sometimes you're Minnie Mouse. But either way...
we already do have Figaro, sort of, because he's on the surfboard with Minnie in the Mini Surfer. He's on the surfboard there, but Figaro needs, we need a Figaro cat card.
That's true. I just realized that. Yeah, he is on this. Is he named? I have to look that up.
No, it doesn't show. It doesn't say his name on the card at all. He's just there hanging out on the surfboard.
All right. Well, then knowing what I know about Lorcana, they leave breadcrumbs. So maybe that's because they're gonna, sometimes if you see something, they're like, oh, we know you saw that. Or I like it when sometimes like Rochelle will hint like, so you guys haven't even seen everything, or you've seen it but you don't understand.
And then she says things like that. I'm like, what have I missed?
I know, right? Tell me. Come on, tell me, Rochelle.
Okay, what are your thoughts about a Geppetto card?
I think sure. Why not? I don't know what he's gonna do. I mean, he'd have to have synergy with Pinocchio.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have enough elderly men in Lorcana, and how fun would that be to play a little Geppetto?
Yeah.
So, and if we had When You Wish, is there a When You Wish Upon a Star? I feel like there isn't. There can't be.
There's not.
And that would be wonderful because that is a song, like we said, that song,
classic.
Catch me on any moment where I'm on the brink of having a rough day and I will probably cry. Or a good day. You don't know.
You just don't know. Yeah, we definitely need that song for sure.
Yeah, we have a Blue Fairy, which is quite nice because she's fun.
Yeah, she is fun.
And like you mentioned, Monstro. He can get in there. He's fine. I was talking mean to him, but he is allowed in. Fantasia, there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room in Fantasia, and I feel like you have some that you'd probably want.
Yeah, I mean, I just want all the like fairies, that are in Fantasia. I think are fun. And also the Rite of Spring, right? That has like all the fawns and the I just think there's so many fun things that you could do. There's so many fun things you could do. They have like years and years and years worth of like characters to bring into the game with just that movie.
They do. And I really want the ostrich and the hippo and the alligator
Yes, and the
dancers.
alligator. Oh my gosh, the ostrich. Or
I
like the little
know.
dancing mushrooms.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Come on.
One of my dreams, some TCGs have tokens where you play them
Oh,
and then like little tokens
yeah.
come out. Like basically if like when this card dies or is banished, it will spawn like 3 little 1/1 tokens. And how
Oh,
cute would it be if something
yeah.
happened to like the little mushrooms?
Mushroom.
You
And then
like,
there's like little mushroom tokens. Oh, that'd be cute.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
And the art on that is just, it's so pretty. So I think it lends itself so well.
It really does.
Then we're moving and grooving to Dumbo.
Oh, Dumbo. I mean, okay, obviously, like, we need Dumbo and Dumbo's mom. The mouse, what's the mouse name again?
Timothy?
Yeah. Timothy, you need the mouse.
Yes.
You're questioning yourself on the name.
I do, because like I can't call myself a lore keeper and then I'm like, I don't know the name of the conductor in Fantasia. And his mouth, Timothy, who knows?
I'm pretty sure it's Timothy. Also, if they're gonna do Dumbo cards, they have to have, here was my thing, is you have to have a feather item.
Oh, yeah, a magical feather.
Like
yes.
like you have to. And I don't know, like, and you just like tap it and it gives the character evasive or something, like,
Yes, yeah, because you can, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah, there. So I
okay.
just gave Ravensburger a new card. So magical feather, exert this item to give chosen character evasive during, for this turn.
Oh, that's wonderful because, so
super rare.
Yeah, super rare. Yeah, it has to be very good. This is very good. It's a magical feather. You can't have, a regular feather could be normal, but this is magical.
Yes.
I will say my opinions on Dumbo were completely shifted because in 2012, when I worked at Disney World, let me flex a little bit.
Do that, yes.
So they opened Storybook Circus in Disney World. And so basically where Toontown was in Disney World, they made Storybook Circus. And it's like this circus-themed Dumbo area.
Aww.
They made double Dumbo. So they made just 2 Dumbos, but it's really magical and it's wonderful. And I want a Circus Lorcana set. And we can have, and you can have like Casey Jr. You can have the like Dumbo, but like the happy stuff, none of the sad stuff. Also at Storybook Circus, they have different circus themed characters. Like you have a Daredevil Goofy, you have a fortune telling Daisy. So it would just be amazing to have. And I feel like they're doing like every other set, like happy, scary, happy. So, after Shimmering Skies, which Shimmering Skies seems to be a little circusy themed. It's
it is a little, circus adjacent. The carnival.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
So Dumbo has room.
Yeah.
He could be amongst the circus.
Yeah.
You could even have Hufflepuffs and Woozles with him. Why not, if we're doing elephants?
Right. Well, yeah. My husband once, he was asking me, he's like, is there going to be ever Hufflepuffs and Woozles? Hopeful. I'm hopeful. Also, quick question though. There are 2 Dumbo rides in Walt Disney World. Like
Double
the exact same ride. Just like.
Yeah. So that's my favorite thing. That's like
amazing.
Such a Disney thing that they've been doing over the past few years, where if capacity gets rough, they're like, I have an idea. Let's build a second one. They did it with Soarin' too. They built a second Soarin' and a second Toy Story Midway Mania. They just built and so they're just like, you know how to make capacity twice as high? 2 rides. Now with Dumbo, you can see it. It's double Dumbos. But they made like these little rainbow fountains, and at night it's the prettiest thing in the world. I've ridden Dumbo so many times, and I can't tell you why, because I've never ridden it. Well, I probably rode it once as a kid, but at Disney World it's very magical. Yeah.
When I go, I will have to ride it then.
Yeah, the double Dumbos. And I briefly, so I didn't work in Disney in the theme parks. I worked at Disney Quest. But one of my friends said, "Hey, can you pick up a shift for me?" And it was stroller parking at Dumbo, which is first off, if you ever want to see something really truly amazing, just see the fear leave people's eyes when they just leave everything they own in a stroller when they go to ride a ride. They'll leave all their belongings. I'm just their purses, cameras,
just everything.
Yep. I gotta go ride Dumbo. It's amazing. And so then like I'd have to move them, and then people would be like, "Where'd you put my stroller?" I'm like, "No, I don't know, man. I don't really know anything." And then it was really sad because people are like, "Where's Mickey's house?" And I'm like, "He doesn't live here anymore because his house is gone. I'm sorry, you can't
She got rid of
man.
Toontown. So that was rough. It was rough.
Oh, yeah. There's no Toontown now? Wow.
Yeah. So I'm
That
like,
is
you could go
rough.
to Disney, California. It is only a short flight away.
Short flight.
But that was a really great day. Was working. So maybe I will post that in my stories of me in my little circus outfit because you got to wear the
Yes,
circus
Yes.
outfit, and it was such a great day for me.
I love it.
So yeah, and last is Bambi, which I'll be
Yeah.
honest, I would love Thumper. I'd
Yeah.
love Flower.
Flower.
There's cute cards I'd like,
Yes.
but I'm not dying to see Bambi in there. But he can come.
He can come. And the dad's cool because he's like the whatever, he's like the big guy on campus, with the big antlers and stuff. I could see some cool art. I wrote down, what did I write down? I wrote down an idea for this. Oh, yeah. Because if you're going to get Bambi in there, I think you need to have an action card that's called Twitter Pated.
Oh, that's quite cute. Yeah.
See, it's the cute parts. We just want the cute parts.
That's all I want. Is if you're going to have a villain, that's okay, but make sure you got some cute stuff, and I won't be mad at you anymore.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know
would be so cute.
I don't know what Twitter Pated would do, but
it could reduce the cost of something, perhaps, because you're Twitter pated. I don't know, but I quite like the cuteness of it. Yeah, there's moments I like, or you could have I know we don't have counter spells and probably never will, but if you could have if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, and it's if some you can counter Dragonfire and be like, hey, if you don't have anything nice to play, don't play anything at all.
Don't play anything at all.
Yeah. And that would just be nice.
There's some
in
cute
general
stuff. Yeah. And there's the song, what is it? April Showers. Is it called April Showers? I don't know what the name of it.
That sounds like a good name for it. Oh, yeah, that is.
Yeah, that one. So that's a cute song. See, there's lots of cute things in these movies, but just overall kind of dark and weird as a children's story.
Certainly, it was a more serious time.
Yes. Let's take the cute stuff and put it in Lorcana. So, yes.
Yeah, and if you put something serious like Chernobog, add holographic, and I'm not mad anymore.
There you go.
That's all you need to do is make it a little shiny, and then suddenly I'm happy. Oh, and the last thing I put is we need more Jiminy. One Jiminy is not enough. We need several Jiminis.
Yeah.
I need Floodborn
Is there
Jiminy.
only one? There's only one. Yeah, we need more Jiminy.
Yeah, he's great. Or you could have a Conscience. I have I have a Jiminy above my computer. It's who I'm looking to. And he has his little badge.
Yes.
That'd be quite nice.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know what
could
it would
do
do.
some cute stuff. You could do some real cute stuff for Jiminy. I wonder what
Sometimes
a
I have-
floodboard Jiminy would look like.
There could be Floodborn. There could be Pleasure Island Jiminy, where Jiminy
dear.
gets into Pleasure Island, and he's like, I don't know. Well, it's weird because we don't have a lot from that movie, but we have Honest John, which is or maybe not Honest John.
That's true. We do have Honest John.
But we don't have Stromboli, which would be quite fun to say.
Stromboli would be fun to have. Yeah, you need that. We should put that in Monstro. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, we are only on set 4. We have decades, eons, millennia.
So much time.
I mean,
eras.
Yeah, eras. Yes, we're only in our first era of Disney Lorcana. So soon we will have the eras, where we talk about all the eras that I have covered. So yeah, I mean, that's the golden age. I think it's crazy. Like we said, it's so enduring, the things that they did at this time. And this is very cheesy, but I love quotes very much. And I always get a little emotional when I think about the quote where he says, I only hope we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse. And I love that because it kind of stands for all the things that they did at Disney. They created art that didn't just stand alone as important pieces of art on its own, but they also created this chain reaction of creativity and fandom. And it made this new and exciting storytelling that eventually it led people all over the world to play a card game and make friendships. And it was all because of the work that started in 1937. And that is what I would call Disney magic.
Absolutely. And it is the most magical card game on earth.
It is. Yeah. And I think it's so fun because I think there's a softness that some of this provides because, I mean, at the end of the day, even when things are hard, because, we're in the middle of set championships right now, things are, stressful because, you want to win. It's a game, and that's the goal of games is to win. But it's really nice to have something to fall back on where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go watch this movie. Maybe not Pinocchio or Bambi, but, some movie.
Yes.
And that's really nice.
Yes.
Or maybe we can find...
Listen to the music, put on When You
Exactly.
Wish Upon a Star. And I love listening to Disney music.
Which, yeah, I need to get in contact with the Disney Lorcana team and say, hey, when the people win, play When You Wish Upon a Star in the background.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
They
You'll
should
just see
do
me
that.
crying and the people on stage like, I'm not that big of a Disney fan. I'll be like,
You did it.
Did
So
it.
that's all I need to make it seem more emotional, impactful is that song.
Oh,
So,
man.
well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Eras Tour. I mean, not everybody can make it to the real Eras Tour, but you made it to this one.
I
appreciate. Yes. And I have been so consistently impressed and inspired by the work you've done for our community. And I am so honored that you decided to spend an evening with me talking about our hobby that we share with so many people.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be here, kick off the Eras Tour with you, and I hope we get to hang out again soon.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, I love talking Disney. I'm so excited. I don't think we said it while we were recording, but you've never been to Disney World. So that's my new thing is I'm going to get you and Jake from 40 Board. I'm going to get like everyone and we're all going to Disney World. We'll figure it out. It's going to work.
It's going to happen.
It's going to make sense. It's a business trip if we're all doing this as content, right?
Absolutely.
So before we say goodbye, though, where can people find and follow you and your content?
So you can find me a little bit over on Twitter at the Illuminary, but mostly I hang out on Instagram at lorcana.illuminary, and I have lots of fun over there. So I hope you come join me.
If you need to remember the light side of things, I highly recommend going over to your Instagram because it always, I'm like, oh yeah, I can smile and have fun too. Because, sometimes I'm thinking a little bit too hard about the meta, and then I'm like, we can hee ha ha too.
We can hee ha ha. Yes. That's what I'm here for. All the hee hees and all the ha ha's.
And sometimes a little bit of a song, which I appreciate too. So, well, thank you again. And thank you to our listeners for joining me for another episode. As you know, there's always room for more at the end. So if there's anything you want to hear me talk about, please feel free to email me at contact@thelorekeepersin.com or reach me on Twitter and Instagram at the socials linked in the description. As always, thank you for hanging out with me today. We are always happy to have you stop by the Lore Keepers Inn wherever your quest may take you. And remember, if you don't know where to find us, just take the second star to the right exit and head straight on till morning.